Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Baseball Podcast. It is me, Joe Pisapia, and today we're going to have some fun. It's time for the All-Breakout team for 2024. The guys who are going to win you leagues, the guys who are going to carry you to glory. And by glory, well, I mean maybe some money, maybe some, I don't know, trophies, or perhaps even an incredible belt, which we're going to be giving away here pretty soon on the channel. But before we give away things, I want to keep one thing, and it's the Welsh. I always want to keep you around because it's fun to have you around. Welsh, breakouts, the definition can be all over the place. What's your definition of a breakout player?
Oh, man, I completely agree with what you're saying. Like, the line between breakouts and sleepers is a very, very thin line. Like, I'm not really sure where it I mean, sleepers kind of lives in a world of a player that is being so undervalued. Breakouts are a player that is ready to take that next step in value. And that's kind of how I view them. You know, even looking at my own list, I would say for the most part, every single player on here is not seen in some like elite tier. And sometimes the jumps might not even be, I don't know, like insanely exponential, but to me, it is about the tier change that ends up happening. A guy that, you know, hits 250 with 20-something homers can jump into being a 270, 30-plus home run hitter. That changes the tier. I have a player that was a 2020 guy last year, but the average stunk. I think this player can improve their batted ball skills this year, can improve overall on the batting average, and turn that 2020 into closer to a 30-30 with a better batting average, and that changes the tier. So these are definitely players that are on my watch list, on my draft list. I want on all my teams, but there is no O'Neal Cruz. I did not put him on this list just out of, like, you know, sanity for everybody, because I put him on everything. I absolutely think he's a breakout, but he is, I've actually defined him more as a sleeper because his value's been so low, but I did not put him on this list, so you guys can all feel okay. We will pick a different shortstop, and it is the 2020 guy I spoke about.
Well, for more O'Neal Cruz content, just watch any other video with Welsh that we've recorded.
I gotta stop.
No, but you did stop. I think everybody appreciates that. And look,
try to get different names. We're trying to throw out some other. You guys are going to hear some names,
but we're also trying to drive home certain things that we think. And when we are on something, like last year, we were on Corbin Carroll, we were on Ozzy Albies. A lot of things that we were on were right, and we kept driving into the ground, and we did it for a reason because we wanted you to be in on them as well. But for me, Welsh, the breakout is a player that's shown you at least the piece. You know, they haven't quite, you know, put it over a full season. I think these are the guys that are ready to show it to you over a full season that can really give you that productivity that you're looking for. And again, when you're trying to figure out how to approach your drafts, make sure you go over to fantasypros.com because the draft kit is live. It is free. Of course, if you're premium, you get access to more. We want you to sync all your leagues here at Fantasy Pros because, again, that's free also. When you sync your leagues, no matter how many you have, if you have 10 leagues, 2 leagues, it doesn't matter. You can set all your lineups right from the Fantasy Pros app. Of course, Draft Wizard is up and running. We want you to be successful. That's why we're here. We're trying to give you the content. We're trying to give you the tools so you can go out there and crush all of your drafts, crush all of your leagues, crush all of your trades. And when you do all those things, you might just win this, a championship belt from Trophy Smack, the ultimate fantasy baseball championship belt giveaway. To qualify for this glorious belt, all you have to do is subscribe to Fantasy Pros MLB YouTube channel and comment below on any video. That's it. That's all you got to do, and make sure that you not only subscribe, but also ring that bell till it goes ding for notifications, so you know every time a new episode is up, and also so you can claim your prize of this glorious fantasy baseball championship belt only from Trophy Smack. It is
want to touch the shiny, touch the shiny belt.
Speaking of shiny things, how about this hat that Welsh is wearing on the YouTube channel today? What hat is this for? What hat? It's staring me down. It's looking into my soul. What team is this?
Did you say what the hat, by the way? Did you say what the hat is this? This is, oh, there's a little bit of hair on it.
Of course, I'm sure this bit is killing on the audio-only version of the show.
I know.
We'll proceed anyway.
I actually teased this hat that I wasn't sure if I would wear it because it might stress people out, but I decided today we're going to do it. I'm looking into your soul. Who are your breakouts, ladies and gentlemen?
For breakouts. I think it's the very appropriate hat.
We are. This is the Lake Elsinore Storm. I believe this is one of their alternative hats. Their logo is like a storm with eyes on it. And then they have this alternative one where it is just eyes that stare at you. So yeah, this is like the double vision. This is like a pseudo Doctor Strange third eye, but it's third and fourth eye looking for the breakouts.
It feels like a Looney Tunes, like a character lurking in the dark.
I could do this.
Bunny is going through.
Like this?
No, don't do that. Let's not do that.
My eyes.
Let's get to the breakouts. Let's start at catcher. And my guy is somebody we talked about last year, and we saw a little bit in 2023, but not enough, unfortunately, because Logan O'Hoppe ended up having some injuries that derailed him. But he did flash the power. In just 51 games last year, he hit 14 homers. Yeah, the batting average did drag, but we could say that about a lot of catchers. When we're trying to draft catchers, we're looking for power most of the time. In those two catcher leagues right now, this guy is currently going as the 14th catcher overall, ADP of 196. I think O'Hoppe's one of these guys that you can wait on catcher in a 15-team league, snag this guy. He could probably match the same productivity or close to it that you might get out of a Francisco Alvarez who's going ahead of him, maybe even a Cal Raleigh if things really go well for O'Hoppe. But again, the 14th catcher overall, I think he's a steal. And I think he's going to be one of the bright spots for an Angels team that might not have a lot of light shining on it. So Logan O'Hoppe is that guy for me. Welsh, who's the catcher that made your all-breakout team of 2024?
Well, you can have some catchers with good batting average. The question is going to be the counting stats and where are they going to go. My favorite catcher, this is a homer play. I believe this is, well, no, I have two Diamondback homers here. Gabriel Moreno is my favorite of the catchers to not only just draft because he comes in at an overall lower cost, he's 11th as far as the ECR goes on catchers, 166 ADP. I'll tell you, he can even go later in the ADP gets pushed up a little bit by like two catcher NFBC leagues that throw that up. So it's even a little bit later, but Gabby Moreno in the playoffs absolutely lit it on fire. Multiple home runs, hitting in that 3 spot. He's an under 20% strikeout guy, hit 284 this past year. He had an expected batting average that was still over 260. He improved his hard hit numbers. The thing he's got to do is get the ball in the air. And that's what we see from a lot of young players. And this is a pretty hitter-friendly environment. He's going to be put in RBI opportunities throughout the year. And this team absolutely rallies around him. And the playoffs, I think, was like a really first early sign to realize that they are comfortable, as can be, with this guy being the number 3 hitter because he's a good contact guy. So can he improve the launch angle? Yes. Will he? That's going to be the thing in question. He was like a 4 or 5% launch angle guy based on hard hit and barreling. If he can get the ball near double digits, he will surpass 20 home runs this year. I think I think he is going to blow past all of his projected numbers, and that's why I'm so heavily invested. Projections in general have him beating last year's numbers, but they're still, I think, low. 11 homers, 61 RBIs. I'll put the check down. He is going to beat every single projection from ATC or the Bat X this year, and he is my favorite breakout catcher, where I think next year we will be looking at him as a top 5 or 6 catcher overall.
I love him in head-to-head points leagues too because of the contact rate. Even though he might not, hit 15 home runs, I'll take the hits, I'll take the run scored, I'll take where he's hitting in the batting order. Let's go to first base. Welsh, who do you have?
All right, going over to first base, this is one of my absolute favorites. Triston Casas with the Boston Red Sox. He is the 9th first baseman on the board, 95 overall. And Triston Casas exemplifies like everything that you're looking out of a first baseman. As far as the like big hard hit metrics, 13% barrel percentage, 46% hard hit rate. He had an expected batting average just about within 10 batting average points of what he did. High launch angle, gets the ball in the air 15.7 degree and average over 91 miles per hour on his overall hits. So he hits the ball really hard. He makes sure he barrels. He also is putting up a pretty respectable batting average that I think has more upside. I think for a high walk, not exceptionally high strikeout guy with these type of batted ball skills, he is going to, again, I'm picking on this again, he's going to surpass what projections have him at. They don't have him at 30. I firmly believe he's going to be a 30 home run hitter this year. I think he's going to cross the 80 run and 80 RBI territory. He's one of my favorite first basemen, and there are a few I don't really like that are a little bit ahead. If you can get him at a corner infield or two, I'm in. Triston Casas is my breakout first baseman.
Well, my guy you can definitely get at corner at first base. It's Josh Naylor of the Cleveland Guardians, 122 consensus ADP. Again, you can find that at fantasypros.com. The rank right now is the 17th first baseman going off the board. And, Naylor last year had to deal with some injuries. He only played 121 games, but he did 17 homers and he drove in 97 runs. He's sitting behind Jose Ramirez in that order. He hit 308 last year. The X batting average was 293. The K percentage was 13.7. He's a very valuable player, and I think far more valuable than the ADP suggests. I remember last year when we had Ariel Cohen on talking about projections, it was one of his favorite players, and he was 100% right. He really did perform. But I think there's a breakout coming where if this guy can play 150 games this year, just adding the volume alone, not only can he drive in 100 runs easily, but I think you're also looking at a guy that could approach 25 homers. There might even be a 30-homer season in there, too, for him if everything breaks right. Steamer has him projected for a 480 slugging percentage. That's what I want to see. But the funny thing is, when you look at all the projections for Naylor, everything's around 130-something games, and I just think he's going to play more than that this year as long as, the injury gods are kind to us. And Josh Naylor could be a guy that absolutely breaks out. And the Cleveland Guardians need that too. They need somebody else in that order to really stand out besides Ramirez. I think it was a really tough season for them offensively as a whole, as a unit. And Naylor could be a guy that could really change that dynamic for them if he does develop and take that next step. And you could say that last year was the breakout, maybe. But again, I think there's another gear in this player. And I think the ADP is far too low. Welsh, do you agree?
Yep, I love him. I mean, if I didn't love Casas as much as I do, he would have probably been number 2 as far as like identifying breakouts. So by the way, I don't know if it was last year too, but Ariel, we talked about Naylor this year as well on that episode. Yeah. This is one of those guys. And when you can get batting average from players, I actually don't even think Casas and Naylor as a combo is the worst thing in the world because you're going to get a bunch of RBI from Naylor. I think Casas is going to score more runs than you expect. But yeah, I love it, especially if you're hugging batting average a little bit more or you're trying to make up for it. Naylor is a great piece to put in there. He is a home run threat. He makes really, really good contact, consistent contact. And we saw the RBIs kind of fly up last year. We just got to make sure that the rest of the pieces around him are, in RBI opportunities. But yeah, I think Naylor's a fantastic pick here.
Well, look, 97 last year in 121 games. That's pretty good. Yeah. I also think Welsh, when you're looking at a guy like Naylor, it's also a matter of, not only just health, but also, is that player ready to make that next step? He's been in the league a little while now. And I think, that comfortability factor starts to set in where you see these kids start to blossom. And I'll tell you this, I'll take it a step further. If you're in a salary cap league, what a great value play he is. Like, you don't want to pay for a big first baseman. Maybe you get a 25-100 season out of Naylor with a 290 or 300 batting average. That'd be a pretty sweet return on investment. That'd probably be a lot cheaper than going after the top tier first baseman. All right, for me, it's second base at 222 in ADP, the 22nd second baseman off of the board. It's Edouard Julien of the Minnesota Twins. I love this guy last year. He was the player that popped for me in the spring. I was very excited about him last year when he got called up. Things didn't go well, got sent down, came back, and started to show you all the things that I was very excited about. And if you go back and look at the minor league track record of this player, 263 games in the minor leagues, right? Over 3 seasons. He hit 285 with a 437 OBP, a 487 slugging, and a 924 OPS. They moved on from Jorge Polanco. They've made room. Julian's the guy. Last year in 109 games for the Twins, he had 16 homers, hit 263, but that OBP, 381. I'm telling you, this guy is going to be an on-base machine. I love him in OBP leagues. I love him in points leagues, which is where I prefer to play. But also, Welsh, I've compared him statistically. I think he's the next Jose Vidro, a player that you can just set it and forget it. And I think that's going to be a very valuable thing in fantasy and for the Minnesota Twins this year. Who's your second base breakout of 2024?
I probably would have picked Julien, by the way, had you not.
Okay, but let's go.
I do love me some Nolan Gorman. And this might be a case of we have to have like the breakout may have already happened. You know how you said that with Naylor? You're like, well, the breakout may have already kind of been there. Gorman may have kind of been there. He did hit 27
I think
homers.
There's a better version of Gorman, just like there could be a better version of Naylor too.
That's right. But he also hit 27 homers and he barely has an ADP inside the top 200. He's the 16th second baseman, so not a starter in 15-team roto. It's 182 according to the consensus ADP that you can find over on FantasyPros. And there's still another gear in here, but that gear has to be about the batting average. So he hit 236 this past year, which was a 10-point jump from the year before. And the strikeouts have been an issue. Consistently, his issue has been higher in the zone. And that's what they had him go work with Driveline the previous year on. And that's still kind of a work in progress. He's one of the better low zone hitters in all of baseball. And the hard hit number spoke for itself. I mean, 48.5% hard hit rate, one of the better ones in baseball, 16.5 barrel rate. That's up there. One of the best launch angles, over 20 degrees, 22.2, and had an average 91 EV. So you go back to Casas, these are kind of similar numbers, except the hard hit and launch angle even bigger for Gorman. His expected batting average has been 239 or 238 for 2 straight years. The difference is his actual batting average is 236. If he can improve higher in the zone just a little bit, he can start matching what are higher expected stats, and he will be one of the bigger values post 150. 30 plus homers in the middle infield, if you can get a 240 batting average, would be phenomenal. It'll just be, will we get that? Every projection system says so. ATC 239, I should say, but essentially 240. But you've got right in that range. Give me 240 and give me 30 plus homers and Nolan Gorman, where he can be a big breakout this year.
Love it. All right, let's get to the third base side there. Who is at the hot corner to break out in 2024, Welsh?
All right, for my third baseman, I'm going off script a little bit. I'm picking Michael Busch, who, and why I say off script, ADP of 400, ranked 35, will not actually most likely play that position. And I'm throwing out the bigger caveat is Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger re-signing. We had heard that Michael Busch was going to be like a primary first baseman. If Bellinger comes back and is a primary first baseman, that leaves us some questions. If he goes into center field, it opens it up. They've also said they have not announced who the third baseman is going to be. It could be Morel, could be Michael Busch. But the reason I want to focus on Michael Busch here is he does qualify at this position, and this team, given the at-bats, he's ready to have his breakout season. He's ready to be a higher batting average Nolan Gorman type. ATC only has 91 games, but 12 homers, hitting 237. He's going to hit high. He hit 323 in AAA this past year. Obviously a friendlier ballpark in the PCL, but he had an under 20% strikeout percentage, K percentage, 18.8, a high walk percentage, and he had 27 homers in AAA alone. If he's given the opportunity in a friendly ballpark in Chicago, he will hit over 20 homers. He is absolutely free. But the question is does the playing time get decimated by Cody Bellinger? There's probably a lot of players we could have picked here. This has been someone I have been picking up in drafts. He's now cheaper than ever because of Bellinger. But if he does lock down that spot, be it at DH, be it at first, be it at third, be it at all of it, and he gets regular at bats, he's going to hit over 250 and he's going to hit over 20 homers. It'll be a breakout for Michael Busch.
I feel like Morel's going to get that first crack at bats. That's just how I feel about it.
But that's going to be the thing is, where are they comfortable moving players? I think Bellinger might play between center and first base. Pete Crow Armstrong is a big kind of key to this as well. If they move these pieces around, and Michael Busch just, it doesn't matter the position. He needs the regular playing time. And if that happens, he is going to break out. If not, egg on my face, this one will not work.
All right, Noelvi Marte is that guy for me at third base. 185 ADP, the 19th third baseman going off the board. Marte did get a small sample size with the Reds last year. 35 games, but my goodness, was it good. 316 batting average, 366 OBP, a 456 slugging. He's got power, he's got speed. If you look at the minor league track record, again, he's just turning 22 this year. But the minor league track record is good, a 282 slash with 367, 467, 833 OPS. These are all the things you're looking for. He's got power. He's got speed. He has got the profile. We've been waiting for this kid a long time. The first time I saw him, well, I want to say the first time I saw him was in 2021 play, and he was in the Seattle organization still, and I was very impressed by this kid, and I thought this guy is going to certainly skyrocket through, and then obviously the change of scenery there in that big trade with Luis Castillo brought him over to Cincinnati, but Cincinnati, there's a lot of reasons to be excited. It's a young team. There's going to be growing pains. But I think Marte's skill set with the pop and the speed and the ballpark factor he's going to be playing in, I think it's enough for him to break out. I think it's enough for him to be the everyday starter at third. And I think it's enough for him to translate not everything that he did last year in those 35 games in the small sample, but enough of it that I think he's going to be a huge value with that return on investment. Now, when it comes to shortstop, I went back and forth on this one. I've been really... I don't know about you, but I've been drinking the Michael Garcia Kool-Aid. But at the end of the day, I had to go with my boy Junior Caminero instead. Now, he qualifies at short, qualifies at third in most of your leagues. But Caminero, to me, we just talk about the goods. He's the goods. Hits the ball the opposite field with power. makes great contact. I don't think there's anything left for him to really prove. I know he is just a kid. I know he's another young player, and it feels like I'm talking dynasty here. But at the same time, Welsh, it's hard not to get excited about this player. Jose Caballero is the only thing standing in his way, and I just don't think it's enough. I think there's a big, giant gap in the middle of that order without Wander Franco, and you're looking at a guy last year in 2023 that combined in single A, or I should say high A and double A, 31 homers, 94 RBI, hit 324 with a 976 OPS. There's very little for this kid to learn. I think he will get his 50 to 75, maybe even 100 at-bats at AAA. I don't think it's going to take that long. I think by Memorial Day, this kid is up. If not May 1st, he's up. And I think Caminero is going to take this league by storm. He's going to be a tremendous player from the jump, and he's a guy that I want to invest in very much. Now, you're the prospect guy. Do you think I'm being too excited about Caminero's 2024 impact?
No, I mean, I'll throw out a couple things. He's not going to play shortstop at all. So no, I would say, well, I just want to point, I don't think Caballero
he could if they really wanted to get the bat in there. Like if they really wanted to log jam him in there, he could.
The flexibility is
really
key. Yeah, the flexibility is there if he were there and they want, because here's the deal. Yandy or Isaac Paredes, they could be the problem at third. But you know, if Paredes moves to DH, they could have Yandy at first. Caminero made like a really great defensive play in spring. Like he's a good defender there. Ahmed Rosario's kind of popping at shortstop. Caminero would actually provide them flexibility because he can play corner and in that middle. All of that aside, I agree with you. I don't think this can be more than... I think by May 1st, if he's not up, I would be absolutely shocked because this guy's ready. He's defensively been playing solid. I talked with Carson Williams, his prospect teammate, who is a defensive wizard, and he said how close him and Caminero are working defensively. His bat is absolutely live.
No,
I don't pick like prospects for this. I mean, if I would have probably done Holiday and I would have done Caminero because I agree with you. I want to draft him. He's a guy that I guess for all intents and purposes, he's going to break out because he's going to be given an opportunity. And I think he's a smoke and steal after 200 because you get him as a bench
in the projections, Welsh, I see they have Aranda as DH, Paredes at third, and Diaz at first. Do you think, I mean, again, I'm looking around, and I think that Caminero's a piece that you can't stunt the growth of for any of those guys, as good as Diaz was last year and Paredes was last year at times too.
I agree. The Aranda thing is interesting because it's like, that's like that stubborn, like, what do we have out of this guy? We need to see what we, like that presses that. But there were Isaac Paredes trade rumors in the offseason. I would still say there's an opportunity. If this team is committed to Caminero, you could see a player like Isaac Paredes just get moved before camps end and the season starts. But that's why you want to make the bet. I don't think Jonathan Aranda is enough to hold back Caminero. I don't think, finding the spots for Isaac Paredes is enough to stunt them not bringing him up. And the Rays really should consider if they can find a way to make this happen, you have potential extra pick compensation. If he were to start from day one, he legitimately could win Rookie of the Year, and that is more player pool money in the draft. So I don't think the team should be dismissive, and I don't think we should be dismissive because of some of the early words. Sometimes gotta motivate these guys, make them show you that they deserve to be the guy, and I think Caminero has been doing that in spring.
I would keep an eye on lineups towards the end of spring too, because if Michael Garcia of the Royals starts hitting, they decided MJ Melendez is not the leadoff guy or whatever, and they lengthen that lineup a different way, that would also be a guy. And the guy that you're going to talk about, Anthony Volpe, is a player that I've seen play in person many times here in New Jersey, where he played for the Somerset Patriots. And I was surprised he didn't hit the ground running last year, but I think just like you, he is ready to do that in 2024 and break out.
Yeah, and that's what I talked about at the top. I mean, we're talking about a guy that went 2020 and we're like, hey, he's going to break out. And it's like, well, how does that happen? Well, it's because the guy hit 209. He hit 209 last year. He had 209 while not even having a 30% strikeout rate, which that's kind of wild in general. Here's a semi-positive, not that there's a lot of plate appearances to it, but so far in spring training, he has a 10% strikeout rate. So that has been exceptionally low. He's hitting over 350. I've seen him in the minors. Now, he did this in his early stages of his career, but then he really had like a high push advancement. I mean, he's a 22-year-old making it to the majors, but he had like a rookie season where he hit 215 and then he bounced back at 302. He has found ways to bounce back to his batting average, but the problem is he may not be more than a 250 guy. What he's not is a 209 player. He hit 209. Right. This is similar to Ellie De La Cruz, I want to point out. Ellie De La Cruz, the last you know, whatever it was, I'm trying to remember, I think it was the second half of the season, he hit like 203 and still stole like 18 bases or something like that while hitting 203. My point is, Anthony Volpe hit 21 homers, stole 24 bases while hitting 209 in a Yankees lineup. The upside is there. His expected batting average was in the 230s. I think you can cut the strikeout percentage. We know he can steal. He is a legit 30-30 option. He gets the ball in the air, almost 10% barrel rate, over 40% hard hit, all of those things we like. It is just about pitch mix. He hit fastballs pretty well. It's about hitting off-speed stuff and doing it consistently. And he has shown that in the minors before. I think he can do it. If he can hit 230 or 240, absolute breakout campaign. And we're going to be figuring out, what do we do with this guy that hit 30-30 but has a lower than 250 batting average? He's going to teeter between a third and like a fifth round pick somewhere in there. I think Anthony Volpe is going to break out, and he did it while kind of stanking in his first year. So improvement, even better, break him out.
I got to say too, I'd love to see him get moved up in the order too, because I think that's a problem also. He's hitting an 8th spot right now. I know LeMahieu's at the top of this order, and he's got to get hot in order to justify the move up. But if he gets moved up, he's going to see so much better opportunities in terms of guys having to pitch to him. Because when you have Soto and Judge behind you, you got to pitch to Anthony Volpe, and I think that would go a long way to his development. I wish the Yankees would take that leap of faith, but it doesn't seem like, at least in the beginning of the year, that's something they want to do.
One good thing, though, is if he is hitting 9, this is one of those like top 10 teams where you're like, if you can hit 9 and you've got Judge and Soto kind of right behind you, the run opportunities might present themselves in a pretty positive way. He's got to not press, but I mean, again,
well,
he hit 209.
He is that guy, though. He is a grinder. He's a very hard-nosed player. And I think last year, he just pressed too hard. I think that was a big problem.
Also,
loosen up a little bit.
I forgot to mention a 250 BABIP. That's an incredibly low BABIP. That is an easy look and identifier of positive regression. That has to come up, and that's a lot of what plays into the batting average coming up. 230 seems like very reasonable, and that's not super exciting. But if we get to 240, 250, Anthony Volpe will be a problem.
Yeah, I agree. In a good way, by the way, for those people wondering.
All the good ways.
Let's talk about the outfielders, Welsh. Who did you pick for your all-breakout team of 24?
All right, I've definitely talked about these guys. My 2 big breakouts. Number 1, Riley Greene with the Detroit Tigers, who hit 288 in only 99 games, 11 homers, 7 stolen bases last year. He improved. What did he improve? Launch angle, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, all of those improved. Really good hard hit, 46%, double-digit barrel. Those are kind of key metrics that I'm looking for, especially for players that have, exceptional skills, and how can they continue to improve? There you go. He's going to barrel up the ball. He's going to hit it hard. That's going to do good things for you. His expected batting average was 287. He hit 288. We know he's going to hit for a high batting average. He had an almost 115 max EV. So it all maintains that he can hit the ball hard, and he does it on a high batting average. And you know what that usually equates to? Really great offensive results. The ballpark isn't the best, but I do think that Riley Greene can push 25 homers this year. I think he can steal double-digit bases, none of which are projected, but projections are all over on games played. If he stays healthy, I think he will be a force in that lineup, and he is a smoking deal at 163 and the 31st outfielder. My other one, we actually got a little scared the other day. He's another one of my favorite late targets. He's going off at 200 and the 44th outfielder, according to the average ECR. It's Jarren Duran, who had 24 stolen bases last year. He had a high batting average, hitting 295. His expected batting average is almost 270. Again, those metrics we're looking for. 45% hard hit rate. That's huge. Double-digit number on the launch angle, over 10%. He improved. He didn't improve year over year. He improved over his rookie year. Barrel percentage is still a little bit too low, but his expected numbers are, for the most part, in line across the board. And here's the big thing. I think he's going to steal like crazy this year. If he stays healthy, what did he have? He had 24 stolen bases in 100 games. I think he's going to push 40 this year. He has a chance to hit high in the lineup, and those hard hit numbers give him a really good baseline. Jarren Duran at 200 is LOL overall. He is a 4th to 5th outfielder on every single team. And, we're talking about Nico Horner, who hits for a high batting average and steals 40 bases. Jarren Duran might put up Nico Horner's numbers in the outfield and go 150 spots later. So give me Jarren Duran. He's going to break out.
Yeah, it's a huge difference there. All right, looking on to the outfield for me, Jordan Walker, post-hype sleeper, perfect opportunity. 124 overall, the 30th outfielder going off the board. Jordan Walker, when you look at the minor league numbers, I mean, they're elite. A 301, 383, 510 slash, and 892 OPS. Last year, some ups and downs, got sent down at 1.2, but over 117 games, he did it, 16 homers, hit 276. He held his own. A lot of the problem, too, was on the road, where his OPS was 100 points lower on the road as opposed to at home. On home cooking, things were good for him. When he went out, not so good away. So he became a guy that you really had to manage a little bit more in terms of if you had daily transactions or weekly lineups. You had to really account for the schedule when it came to Walker if you were paying attention on how to utilize him. But I've comped this player to Jermaine Dye before. Like, to me, that's the kind of hitter he is. And Jermaine Dye was a very useful piece for a long time. I think this guy, post-hype, I know last year you were very much a Jordan Walker guy. I don't feel like I've heard you talk about Jordan Walker once this year. So I want to talk about him. But before I do, the other guy that I have is Jackson Chourio, who I know you're excited about too. This is another dude where, look, when you give a 20-year-old kid an enormous extension, he's going to play, and he's going to play every day. He's a good defender. He is the deal when it comes to power, when it comes to speed, when it comes to all of those intangible qualities. We are in a embarrassment of riches right now when it comes to this young talent that's being filtered through the major leagues. And it's stunning to think that they're getting there at 20, 21, 22 years old, and they're making an impact. I think Chourio is just that next guy to make an impact. It's a good ballpark factor for him. He's got some lineup protection now that Hoskins is there with Yelich. So there's some pieces. Contreras is there too. So they've got some pieces around him. He doesn't have to carry the offense. We'll see where he ends up hitting in the batting order. That could have something to do with it too, how far that breakout could be. But again, I know I've got a couple rookies on this list, but I think these guys are not just your average rookies. I think this is going to be a very special year of rookies. Remember back in the day, boys and girls, when you had your tops traded 1986 and you looked at all the rookies in that class? I know Welsh doesn't because he's
I was 3 years old. I don't remember that. No,
I remember it. It was Barry Bonds and it was Will Clark and it was all these Bo Jackson, it was all these guys. It was a historic rookie class. Barry Bonds, Bobby Bonilla, all those guys were in there. That, to me, could be this rookie class in 2024. It is a special group, Welsh. So, Jordan Walker, how come no Jordan Walker noise from you?
No, I'm in. I know there hasn't been a lot. Well, one of the things I thought was super interesting was Mason Wynn confirmed that Jordan Walker had gained 20 pounds of muscle in the offseason. And that you want that. From a guy like that.
Already. He's not a small dude.
Explosive bat speed. I remember he was here in the Arizona Fall League, and my son got to meet him and take a picture with him. And he was in just pure awe of the size of Jordan Walker. Because I'm a big dude. We were just hanging out together. You know how Jordan Walker looks down on me. And for a guy to get even bigger with explosive bat speed, I'm all in. I am in. I guess I haven't really like signaled him as this guy, but I'm trying to draft him where I can. I've got him, I think, inside the top 100. Think he might have even worked with some drive line this year. I think it's fantastic. Physically, he has all the elements to just be a superstar. And I love the idea of the added muscle to get the ball in the air a little bit more. And he was making really good contact. I love him. And I love Chourio. I tweeted out that picture from before we went on our trip. So like a week and a half ago when I was at Brewers camp, that I thought it was interesting that Chourio was working exclusively with Christian Yelich and Garrett Mitchell. Sal Frelick in that same session, the entire day was on a backfield working at third base. I really think Pat Murphy has made the decision that Frelick is going to be a third base / super util guy, and they are putting Chourio in that lineup. That's how they have treated him this whole time. The question would be, did they fall in love with Joey Wiemer? I don't think so. I think Wiemer and Garrett Mitchell can kind of play a platoon. Chourio can do it, and Sal Frelick kind of comes off there. So I am resigned to Chourio making this roster, and that's why I ranked him like right inside the top 100, and that might be even a little bit low. I will say though, he struggled kind of most of camp and then just had like a big day just the other day and improved his batting average to 300. But I'm with you on both of these players, and I think I do think Chourio is going to break camp with the team. And I think that it is in a kind of an exceptional group of prospects. We might look back and we go, holy crap, we had Carter and Langford and Holiday and Caminero, and we're going to be blown away by the results.
Yeah, I mean, just those guys alone, not to mention if any of the other guys that were not the guys in the peripheral of that, prospect top 20, they might make, Heston Kjerstad could come up and make a big impact with the power that he has. This is just
Dylan Cruz, Paul Skeens, we could still see all those guys.
I'm telling everybody, 2024 might be the year of the rookie again. This is a special group here if they can get enough activity at the major league level. Let's get to the pitchers here, Welsh. Probably no surprise to the guys we're going to pick. One of them we have both selected, so let's talk about Michael King, and let's talk about your second selection too.
Yeah, no chance, because I saw you put Michael King on here. No chance I wasn't not putting him on here. We're going hand in hand again into the sunset of picks, because I am, I think, still currently the highest ranker on FantasyPros on Michael King. 2.23 ERA as a starter, had an over 31% K percentage as a starter. I love his pitch mix. I've kind of found similarities in Pablo Lopez overall. Obviously, it's used a little bit differently, but I love the sinker, sweeper, fastball overall mix. A changeup with actually the #1 whiffed pitch. And I'm pretty optimistic that this team is not going to press down on his innings. So, he was great as a starter last year. You're going into a pitcher-friendly ballpark with good run support. You've got superstars. You've got Machado. You've got Tatis. You've got a pretty good defensive infield as well, getting Tatis out of there, committing to Kim. I like who they are defensively. I think Michael King, let's see, Michael King projections, I think have been like around 130. I think he can push 160. They're going to depend 100%. On this guy. And he had 2 pitches of a 39 or higher whiff percentage, and he was a phenomenal starter. Low walk rate too. He lowered his walk rate as a starter. So, the K- walk percentage, one of the better in the league. I think Michael King, he is the epitome of the player that is ready for a breakout, because he doesn't fit that mold for a lot of people, and he will be put into the starter role. And from a value perspective, 148 ADP, 44th starting pitcher overall. He's one of my favorites. And I know you and me are on the Michael King bandwagon.
Yeah, when I wrote up all the pitchers for the Black Book this year on Amazon, I got to tell you, I just felt like, King was that standout guy. You look at all the numbers. When you're looking at a trend line for a pitcher, everything's going in the right direction. And Michael King was not some schlub prospect too. He was a big time prospect in the Yankee organization. Again, it's always hard for these Yankee guys sometimes to break into the rotation because there's so many expectations that are there. And I think it's always commendable when you have a guy that goes and just says, okay, well, I'm going to convert into reliever here and help the team and be there. And we've seen guys flourish in that role and become really good starting pitchers. Again, I've brought up a few guys, but Johan Santana is the one for me that always stands out, of the last of that ilk. But that used to be the way guys broke into rotations. They used to be the kind of, you'd have to do your time in the bullpen and then you got your chance to be a starting pitcher. And I think Michael King is just locked and loaded, ready to go. He might be the best San Diego Padre pitcher on the board in terms of value. I don't even know if that's debatable at this point, potentially. The other guy for you is a homer pick. So let's talk about Brandon Pfaadt.
Yeah, Brandon Pfaadt's just too good of a deal. I can't get over that. He's a 211 on ADP, the 57th starting pitcher. I think he legit can be a top 30, top 35 guy. Here's an interesting thing. From September on, he had an over 10K per 9 with pending the, and I'm including the playoffs, by the way. So September on with the playoffs, because it went to the World Series, he had a 2 or under walk per 9 to go with that 10K per 9. This was when Strom had him move on the mound, and then he was going sinker, fastball, sweeper with a little bit of changeup. But that over 10K per 9 with 2 or lower walk per 9 of qualified pitchers, there were only like 6 pitchers that did that last season. And they're all like amazing pitchers, but they're all the name, Luis Castillo and Strider, they're all the best names. So my idea is this is a guy that went 180 innings in the minor leagues the year before. He found his improvement. He was phenomenal. ERA was into the low 3s. He had over 10K per 9. September on into the playoffs, the most important time, he stopped walking guys. He's a home run problem, but he's going to get all the innings he can on a great defensive team with offensive support. He is one of their top counted pitchers, and he's going to probably be in that number 4 spot. I think Brandon Pfaadt is just a crazy big steal. The breakout's going to happen, and we're going to be talking about him in that same in that 30 range of pitchers. He's going to change multiple tiers up, and we're going to laugh. I think we're going to laugh at him being like almost 60th overall on starting pitcher. So I know it's a homer. I had him last year, and it was kind of egg on my face for a bit. I'm hopeful that that's going to change, and I think the changes that they did with him September on through the World Series is a proof that this guy can be in the upper echelon of fantasy pitchers.
Now, for me, the other guy is Bailey Ober at 45 overall in terms of the pitchers, 156 in ADP. Ober, to me, really starting to settle in nicely last year. Very strong season for Bailey Ober. And, you start to look around, you say, okay, the ERA was 3.43, but the xERA was 3.63. So not that far off. Look, I just feel like that Minnesota Twins rotation is loaded. And I think it's a great thing whenever you have young pitchers, they can let them just kind of flourish on their own. They don't have to do too much. They don't have to worry about being at the top of this rotation. Pablo Lopez is that guy already. He has that gig. Joe Ryan gets a lot of publicity, as he should, but Bailey Ober is a guy that I think is kind of floating around right now. And I think just like Michael King, ironically, they're kind of going back to back. It just feels like a no-brainer pick to me because it's upside with the win potential. Last year, 144 innings, 146 strikeouts, just 29 walks. The walk rate is minuscule. If you keep the walks down, the hits low, you're going to have success. The whip was at 1.07 last year. Again, 144 in the innings total last year. He could easily get up to 175. That's huge. I think the win potential is there for him too. Love the bullpen as well, the back end of this bullpen for the Twins. So I think there's a lot to like when it comes to Bailey Ober. If he does make 30 starts this year, he is going to destroy the return on investment. Just absolutely obliterate it. Love the guy. And speaking of bullpens and back ends of closer situations, Andres Munoz, I'm going to go back to the well again. Welsh knows I love this guy. Last year, I talked about him so much. And then last year, start off with the injuries. Eventually, things did clear out. Sewald moved on and Munoz moved in. He is at 112 overall, the 13th closer going off the board. But this guy has the fastball velocity. He's got the stuff to become a dominant closer. So I think he's ready this year with a healthy offseason, a healthy spring to really hit the ground running and become the guy that I thought he was going to be last year. So just kind of like Jordan Walker, Andres Munoz, sometimes we're a year early on a guy. And I feel like I'm a year early on Munoz, a year early on Walker, and then on Edouard Julien too. So I'm buying back into a lot of these players, but I think 2024 is going to be the breakout for those guys. Who's your reliever that you're high on that you think can break out in 2024?
By the way, I like that Munoz one. I was huge on him last year. I was worried about Brash taking over that job, but then Brash had this injury that probably is going to just allow Munoz to run with it. So I love that. And they got rid of Prelander Baroa, who they traded to the White Sox. So it's like all the options to take away from Munoz are just kind of fading. So that's a great one. Mine, kind of simplistic. Into my bust territory, I come to the breakouts, and I'm going to pick Evan Phillips, who is the 15th closer going, or I'm sorry, 14th closer going off the board, ADP 113, whatever. But give me a Dodgers closer. Give me a Dodgers closer that they trust. We have seen more confidence come out of camp from Dave Roberts about Evan Phillips, who, by the way, wasn't giving up a whole bunch of contact. He did have, ex-Woba was like top 10% against. Strikeout rate right around the 30. It was 28.2 K percentage. Low walks. He had a really low ERA. Expected ERA was a bit up, but really, I don't even tell you all that stuff. He's with the Dodgers. He's going to be the guy. If he falters a lot, they can go to Brewstar, and they do obviously have some options, but he has been great in spring. He's got the trust. And you've got the best offense in baseball behind him. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities. So I love a closer with opportunities that's not inside the top 10. He will break into the top 10 this year and probably be a stupid value. So Evan Phillips is my breakout closer.
All right, just to run through the rosters for you. For the breakout teams, Welsh has Gabriel Moreno, Triston Casas, Nolan Gorman, Michael Busch, Anthony Volpe. Love that one. Riley Greene, Jarren Duran, Michael King, Brandon Pfaadt, and Evan Phillips. I've got Logan O'Hoppe, Josh Naylor, Edouard Julien, Noelvi Marte, Junior Caminero, Jordan Walker, Jackson Chourio, Michael King, Bailey Ober, and Andres Munoz. But we want to hear from you. Who are the breakouts in your mind in 2024? Drop your names, the comments below. Tell us who you're drafting with fervor, with excitement. And you just might win yourself a Trophy Smack Championship belt while you're at it. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, as Welsh's hat is looking deep into my soul right now. Very unsettling. Don't forget to do that. Ring the bell for notifications. And of course, make sure you sync all your leagues over at FantasyPros 2 to use all the draft software and to use all of the incredible tools to manage your team, to draft your team. The draft assistant with Sync will help you get all the right players on your squad without a doubt. So you are ready and armed and dangerous, just like Welsh's hat, for the 2024 baseball season. Get ready to level up your fantasy baseball game like never before. Back for a third year in a row is our annual FantasyPros MLB Fantasy Fest, the ultimate event for baseball fanatics and fantasy enthusiasts alike. Join us live on Wednesday, March 13th from 4 to 8 p.m. Eastern for a jam-packed 4-hour live stream extravaganza featuring some of the brightest minds in baseball. From expert analysis to insider tips, we've got everything you need to dominate your fantasy leagues this season. And if you want to know the secret to building a championship-winning roster, then tune in to our panel of experts as they dish out the best fantasy baseball advice on the internet. Plus, we'll be answering your burning questions live, so don't miss your chance to interact with the pros. And if you can't make it live, that's no problem. The entire event will be available for rewatch at any time on our YouTube channel, so you can catch up on all the action whenever it's convenient for you. But trust us, you won't want to miss a single solitary moment. So subscribe to the Fantasy Pros MLB YouTube channel today and turn on those notifications so you never miss an update or an announcement. Get ready to take your fantasy baseball game to the next level with our 3rd annual Fantasy Pros MLB Fantasy Fest. That'll do it for us because I'm going to have nightmares, but the story of the game goes on. For the Welsh's hat, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.